Underwriting support for this program is provided by the Eureka Progressive Democratic Club, keeping Eureka moving forward. Give them a call, 268-8035. This program is brought to you thanks to the underwriting support of the law offices of Peter Martin. With almost 2 decades practice in Humboldt County courts, Peter Martin can learn your case, apply the law, and fight for the best result. Give them a call, 268-0445.
Here before my grandfather settled in. They left enough trees a-standing so our kids could toe the line. But now a big corporation come, bought it out, got us working double time. So tell me, where are we gonna work when the trees are gone? Will the big boss have us wash his car, or maybe mow his lawn? I'm a man, I'm a lumberjack man, but I fear it ain't for long. Tell me, where are we gonna work when the trees are gone? I've been singing that song as an earth firster for 25 years. I've been occupying Maxam land for 25 years. This is serious stuff. We fought Maxam, and we defeated them. We saved Headwaters Forest. We got millions of dollars to this community with the Headwaters Forest Fund. I'm the only candidate here who's lived and worked in all 6 counties. I'm the only one who's been a very involved community organizer for over 20 years here. Where I live in Southern Humboldt, work not only on environmental issues, not only on forest issues, but we're incorporating Emerald City down there so we can control our own medical marijuana industry and a post-prohibition industry. Worked on homelessness. So I work on the climate crisis, and I'll tell you about that in that first question, and I work all the way down to the homeless. I'm a person who's here because we have to fight. This is not about the same kind of politics. 5 of the people who are running say they're perfectly fine with a Mike Thompson or a Dennis Kucinich or Lynn Woolsey. But I'll ask you, what good would 20 Lynn Woolseys and Dennis Kucinichs do? I'm not here to become a part of the party hierarchy. I'm here to fight for you and especially for your children. I've been working on the climate for 30 years, and both parties have abandoned their duty. They've abandoned us. Mike Thompson abandoned us. Not just Mike, it's all of them. What has to happen now is we have to take the climate crisis seriously. We're looking at Greenland and West Antarctica breaking up, and this town right here will go with the first foot of sea level rise. That is a deadline we have to make sure we don't cross. We have to get away from fossil fuels and nuclear as fast as we possibly can. This requires President Obama to declare a national emergency similar to FDR, and we have to have not just a New Deal, we have to have a war effort to rebuild our local infrastructures to meet our needs as close to home as possible. That means redirecting trillions of dollars from the wealthy, from retreating the American empire, and from legalizing marijuana and ending the war on drugs. That's the path that I'm proposing. I've got 7 proposals called New Green America. You can see on the flyer. And if you elect me, you're sending someone who's telling President Obama and Congress all of these things, and I'll tell you more later. I agree with Al Gore. It's a climate crisis, no doubt. And we've been ignoring it at our peril. The only solution is to integrate that with the economic crisis. So there isn't one path. You don't just deal with the climate or deal with the economy. They've got to be integrated. And we have to pay a price now because we did nothing for 30 years. The Democrats and Republicans failed us. We have to come together as a community, and we have to find a way of putting people into Congress who are our leaders, people that we have worked with, people who are not corporatists, people who have studied the science and also been in the communities and seen what's happened economically. In Marin County, the median income is about $85,000. In the 4 northern counties, it's about 35,000. It's a very different situation. I've saved 3 homeless people's lives, 2 veterans. And I'll tell you, when you do that, you realize that there is too late. I went through the open firestorm because of the climate crisis. It can become too late here. We can lose Eureka because of this. We have to get together and do this. Well, first I think we should go back to Eisenhower's top tax bracket of 90% for the wealthiest people. I see that as we go through this big transformation, we're going to have to provide an expanded social safety net. Everyone's got to feel safe to go through this kind of a major change. People have got to start to feel like a team. It's one of the things that bothers me about the bigotry against homeless people, that somehow in our community we decide that a certain group is other. We have to be all. This is a campaign about we. We have to invent a way of getting non-corporatists without a corporate agenda into office. We have to figure out a way to reach as many people with the internet and our grassroots community organizing as the millionaire candidates reach with their TV ads. That's something that we can do. It's a new world for that. And so, in addition to the top tax income bracket being increased, it would essentially mean that people below $20,000 or $30,000 wouldn't have an income tax. We have to give free medical care to everybody. We have to have the best schools in America. People are not going to be able to make the money they made after this period. You know, we've been using 70% of the planet to sustain our lifestyle. It can't go on anymore. We have to figure out a new way. So we're going to have to start to think more in terms of the commons and in terms of meeting our desires together. You know, if you don't have a museum, if you don't have a bunch of things in your house, you can go to a museum. If you don't have a lot of books, you can go to a library. You know, think about a college campus. College campus, you pay a few $1,000s and you got your gym, you got your health care and everything else. That's the way we've got to start thinking about this. And as I said, ending the war on drugs, retreating the American empire from the 150 countries where we have bases. I think we could be safe with bases in 70, 75 countries. I would support a Community Sustainability and Restoration Act, and it would be funded by ending all of the subsidies for oil and gas, and by repealing the Price-Anderson Act, which is what allows nuclear power to be insured without bearing the cost of the insurance. So we, the taxpayers, have the burden if we should have another Fukushima here in the United States. So what we need to redirect those literally trillions of dollars to every community in the country to start the process of figuring out how to get off of fossil fuels in 10 years or less. And it takes us coming together, so the process also includes what I call great conversion conferences, where we bring labor and agriculture people together, both conventional and people like permaculturists, and we bring climate crisis experts, peak oil experts, and the people who I call ecotopian technologists, the green city people, the bioregionalists who can teach us how do we assess sustainability. You do it by ecosystem by ecosystem. It's the only way you can do it. Did you know that all 41 Republican senators meet the diagnostic criteria for antisocial personality disorder? This isn't about going in and healing. This is about going in and fighting. I will be the Republicans' worst nightmare. And I will also be the worst nightmare of Pelosi if she pulls impeachment off the table again, or does any of these other things that allow, like Mike Thompson, that just allowed the Bush administration to go on for 8 years. Probably the most destructive thing to happen in the last 50 years is to allow the Bush administration to go on. I'm with you. Every day after Congress, I will whip out my camcorder. I do a lot of video work now, and I will tell you what went on that day. Who the good guys are, the bad guys, the good legislation, and the bad. And every week, I'll have at least a 3-hour online webcast with you so that we can go into Congress, so that you see what I see. And then, 2 years later, we can get 4 or 5 more people elected this way without the $250,000. With us, with our communication, with our collegiality and teamwork. So that's the future I see. And I'm suggesting that we'd have, 4 years from now, 20 Michael Moores, 20 Amy Goodmans, and 20 Andy Caffreys raising hell in Congress. The collapse of the biosphere in general. You know, it's the Titanic has hit the iceberg. It's everything, and everything is integrated. Fortunately, if we take the climate crisis as our guide, it solves a lot of other problems. Do you know that in the last 10 years, the number of lions in the wild has gone from 200,000 down to 20,000? I mean, at that rate, they've got a few years left. They're already ghost species. Species, orangutan, polar bear, that are not going to make it. So what we have to do is we have to reduce our emissions and we have to restore the native diversity in our ecosystems. That's the path we have to go. And we have to figure out how to live within nature's budget. We're living off the capital, and we're leaving our kids a severely, well, maybe even a destroyed planet. You know, I can't stand that. I wouldn't be running if things were tweakable by environmental liberal Democrats. But it takes more than that. It takes a national movement. We have to raise hell on the green left side the way the Tea Party's doing it on the right. I live in a town of 2,000 people. I live in Garberville. I've been living there for 13 years straight, the same place, have the same neighbors. But the thing is, we aren't empowered. We aren't the ones making the decisions. Now, down in Southern Humboldt, we have a problem because up here in Eureka, they make decisions for us since we're unincorporated. So we are working on a process down there. I'm one of the main organizers of Emerald City, incorporating Southern Humboldt into its own city so that we can come up with our own regulations for marijuana and everything. Grassroots democracy is what it's about. It's about activating us to become the politicians and not thinking that politicians are another group of people. Sustainability begins in the rural areas. That's where it all begins. You can't determine it starting in the cities. So this is where it all begins. This is where we have to figure out how we can produce our food, produce our clothing, produce our shelter in a way that doesn't deplete the planet permanently. You know, if you're sitting on a beach and the tsunami is coming, if you don't leave early enough and get far enough away fast enough, you're just as dead as anybody who just sat there on the beach. So it doesn't matter if we're going in the right direction. Right now, the Republicans are dismantling our government and they're dismantling the economy. In Michigan, half the blacks are facing losing their own government, their city governments. Right now, the state, which can control the cities, is going to appoint a banker to liquidate the assets of the people in Flint, Michigan and other places to pay for these debts. Okay? As a progressive and as a green, there is no one else here who is better than me on a single issue. Norman is wrong. I was opposing the bank bailout too, every week here in Eureka and in Garberville. We've been demonstrating against Thompson since the Afghanistan war began. If you don't see the problem, you're not going to find an answer. Tonight, only Dr. Courtney and I recognize that the climate crisis is the most urgent crisis, and everything else has to be not set aside, but it has to be dealt with in the context of we are on a Titanic, and if the Titanic goes down, everything goes down. There's no jobs on a dead planet.